Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Meredith. I'm the knit enthusiast here, and today I have a little bit of a different video than my first two podcast videos. I just recently finished a test knit for Kolibri by Johanna for her George's bow. She originally designed it for her husband for their wedding as a bow tie, but she posted some pictures of her wearing it as a hair bow, and I love hair bows. I knit the Augustins, I think that's how you pronounce it, Augustins No. 22 bow a couple of years ago, and I also just recently knit up the December bow by PetiteKnit that she just released a couple of weeks ago, and I figured I would do a little review video of all three in case anybody is kind of hemming and hawing over which one they would like to do. So I am gonna start with Johanna by Kolibri by Johanna, her George's bow, because that is the most recent one that I've done. And here it is. It is so stinking cute. So when she originally designed it, she designed it so that these ties were a bit longer, and they were basically like the strap for her husband to wear it as a bow tie. But I'm not gonna wear a bow tie ever, so I opted to make it for as a hair tie for myself. And I'm not gonna finagle trying to put it on the back of my head, but it's a pretty nice size. Like, it's not too big, it's not too small, and the construction of this is very different from the other two. And I will say, I think it was the simplest of the three. They're all simple in their own ways, but this one was the easiest overall. You basically knit this main piece. It's just like a rectangle. I'm not going to tell you exactly how, because I don't know where the line is drawn of like what I can and cannot say about patterns, but this part is knit in just like a cute little rectangle, and then this piece in the middle, and then these are knit in double knitting, just like little tubes basically, and you sew them together in the back. And this piece is separate from these pieces. This is one piece, and then this is one piece. And when you go to put this middle piece on, the smaller piece, you just sew it in the back, and then you sew the bigger one on. And what I'm gonna do is, for all three of my bows that I show today, I ordered these like alligator clips for your hair, and I'm just gonna literally glue them on the back so I can just put them in my hair. But they haven't come in the mail yet, so I don't have those for today. But there it is, the George's bow made by Kolibri by Johanna. I personally knit this out of Knitting for Olive's pure silk, held with Knitting for Olive's soft silk mohair. The reason I did that was because I applied for this test knit one morning at like 4 in the morning because I couldn't sleep, and I got on Instagram, and she had just like minutes prior to posted the test call, because I'm pretty sure she lives on the other side of the planet for me, so it was probably just, you know, later in the day for her or something. So I applied for it because I was like half asleep and didn't even think about the fact that I might not have had yarn that met gauge. And then I frantically got up and was looking through my stash, and I had nothing that met gauge except for this yarn, which I actually earlier this year I had started a design of my own, and it kind of just got put on, I wouldn't even say it got put on hold. It literally just, I just decided I didn't want to go forward with it. I got married this summer, and I had gotten moved up to start nursing school a year sooner than I was supposed to. So a lot of things kind of got in the way, and I just did not have the motivation to go forward with the design and whatever. But I never had ripped it back. So I had this like fairly large portion of a project already knit up in this combination of yarn, and I knew I wasn't going to use it for that project. So it was already swatched. I just measured it to see if it met gauge, and it did. So I ripped it out right there that morning at like 5 in the morning, and I casted it on immediately, and I finished this bow within a day. It maybe took me 4 hours total. You know, I didn't do it 4 hours like all at once, but throughout that day it probably took me a total of 4 hours. And I think it is super cute. I think it's a very classic bow. I think it has a very feminine but like just very, I don't know, like it reminds me of, I can't think of her name, but from Peter Pan, Wendy. It reminds me of like Wendy from Peter Pan. So I don't know, it's cute though, and I can't wait to wear it in my hair. I love the colors. It's kind of like a moon, like a moon silver color. I like it. Today is actually the release day of this pattern. I probably won't get this video up today, so it'll be up by the time for sure that I post this video. This pattern did call for 25 grams of Lamana. I weighed the yarn that I used, and it was roughly 25 grams as well. So if you have 25 grams of, I don't know if this would be considered DK, because it is a fingering and a mohair. But if you have 25 grams of whatever laying around and you think you could make it, it's a great pattern, super simple, super quick. Yeah, I really enjoyed the construction of it as well. So next is PetiteKnit's December bow. And this one was, I really enjoyed knitting this one as well. I really enjoyed knitting all three. They were all very different in construction, but this one has that very classic look about it. And again, for this one, I had a project that I had worked up previously, and I did not like the finished object. I wasn't using it, and I just ripped it out and decided to use it for this because, again, it was already knit up on, I think, the needle size that the pattern had called for. So I just measured gauge off of the project that it was, and it met gauge. So I went ahead and bought the pattern and decided to make it. The pattern calls for roughly 40 to 44 grams of she has two suggested yarns. So the first one is a yarn held with a mohair, and it suggests a total of 40 to 44 grams. And then the other option, it called for, I think, exactly 44 grams, but it was one yarn held by itself. The yarn that I had, I only had it, there was no leftover yarn from the project that I had knit. I had knit like a headband. It was the leftover yarn from another project that I knit into a headband. The headband, I did not like it, so I ripped that out, and I only had 36 grams, and I wanted the bow and I wasn't gonna buy more yarn, so I decided to go up a needle size. Even though I was already on gauge at the correct needle size, I decided to go up a needle in the hopes that it would somehow equate. I was hoping that because I went up on a needle size, I would get to the length of the bow that I needed before I ran out of yarn. And it did work. I did get to the length that I needed. The bow is fine. It wasn't like it wasn't super oversized. It wasn't on gauge. I actually ended up having like just the tiniest bit of yarn left over. But here it is. There's like no good way to show it. There it is. I'm sure you guys have all seen it. It's all over Instagram right now. Super cute. A bit bigger, I would say, than that one. And I think what I like about this one is that it does give me the different tails. I love these tails, but I just think it's nice to have the variety as well. The construction of this is very similar to that of the Sophie shawl and the Sophie scarf. There are obviously variations, but the basic construction of like the I-cord edging and then garter the rest of the way is pretty much exactly the same. And then it's the same thing as the George's bow. This middle piece is its own little piece about that big that you do double knitting in. And then there's like in the pattern, there's a whole tutorial, like sketched out tutorial of how to tie this. And I would say that was the most irritating part, because knitting this was easy. It was the construction of it at the end that was really fiddly, and I was not in love with that. It took me a bit longer than I wanted it to, because to get it to take shape, like the perfect shape that I wanted, it took more effort than I anticipated. I'm happy with the final object for sure, but it took a little more effort than I anticipated. And then that's the back. So this part only goes around a certain amount of it. It doesn't go around the whole thing. And same thing, I'm gonna glue an alligator clip to the back so I can just put it in my hair. This one I knit out of, I knit this out of leftover yarn that I had from my penny gloves, which I went over in my first video. And I used the Fibre Co Road to China, held with a strand of mohair that I cannot for the life of me remember what brand it is. And I could not find it I bought it from my local yarn store, and I could not find it on their website. So I think I bought it at a trunk show that they were having, and they don't actually carry that yarn regularly. So sorry. But it's so soft and it's pretty, nice and neutral. Highly recommend. I highly recommend both. And then the last one is the OG of hair bows, knitted hair bows, and that is the Augustins No. 22. I have a soft spot for this particular knitted project of mine because I knit mine in, it was 100% alpaca sport weight yarn from Lake Alpaca Farm in Michigan. I bought it. It was the very first like real good quality yarn skein I had ever bought, and I was so excited about it. And I knit my bow in it, and it is so pretty. This chocolatey brown, I cannot for the life of me find it again, but I just love it. And I was so excited to knit this pattern because it was the first time I really knit something that was like, that had like an interesting construction. I had really only up until then been knitting like hats, scarves. So at this point, this was one of the very first projects that I really branched out with And the construction of this bow is really interesting. It's very different from the other two. This one you have to cast on, like it's kind of like a long tube. And you have to cast on all of the stitches to start. It's over 200 stitches, and then you knit it and you bind off, and then you kind of fold it in a way and tie it up. This one doesn't have that same like double knitted thing in the middle. You just take yarn from the project and you wrap it around. I love this. I used to wear it all the time, but this is one of the unfortunate projects that was attacked by the moths from the moth problem that we have had the last year. If you did not watch my first video, I touched on it a lot. We have a storage unit because my husband and I currently live at his parents'. We're saving up to buy another house, and all of our stuff is in a storage unit. So every season I switch my clothes in and out, and we had acquired a moth problem at the storage unit we didn't know about. And it migrated here to the house, and they pretty much infested all of my knitting stuff, all of my yarn, all of my projects. And this was one of those projects that was under attack. So this has actually been, this hasn't been used in a long time. I tried everything. I've washed it multiple times, and I took it out of the freezer. This has been in the freezer for like a month. I just took it out of the freezer a couple of days ago, gave it a nice good wash. I think I'm even gonna steam block it just so that the steam maybe will, if there's anything, any kind of like larva or anything in it, it'll kill it off, hopefully. But yeah, so I'm really excited to hopefully use this again now that hopefully the moths are all gone. And again, same thing, I'm just gonna glue an alligator clip on the back, and again, I'll just wear it in my hair. This one I like a lot, but the dark brown is it is hard to see in my hair. I still like it. So I wouldn't say that one of them is my favorite over another. I like them all equally. I think that they all have different pros and cons. But I will say that they all have different like sizes. This one being the smallest, the most petite. I think that was what I was trying to say earlier. Like this one just has a very feminine, petite, almost girliness about it. And then this one is a little bit more robust. This one has like I feel like this could be like an all year long bow. This one has a little bit more of like a fall winter-ness about it. I don't know if it's because of the color that I chose to do it in, but it is definitely a little bit bigger. It definitely has more of like a statement factor about it. And then obviously, and again, this could be partly because of the gauge that I made this one at, but from looking at pictures on Instagram also, the December bow definitely is the most voluptuous of the three. It is the largest. It has the most wow factor about it. It is significantly bigger than this one, and slightly bigger than that one. Again, these both to me have a very like fall, winter, holiday-ness about them. I would maybe wear this one in the springtime. Maybe it's just because of the color that I made mine in, but I don't know. This has like a very Little Women vibe to me in the winter. I would highly recommend all three patterns. None of them take a significant amount of time. I would say it probably took me about a day. This one took me the longest. I would say this one took me a couple of days. However, I did make this one, I think almost 2 years ago. So my skill set was not quite as advanced as it is now. So some of the stuff that I had to do for this was new to me, even though none of it is like super advanced. I think I was just very new to the idea of casting on an excessive amount of stitches, and I think the bind off was new to me as well because it uses a 3 needle bind off. But other than that, yeah, it just took me a couple of days for this one. They're all pretty similar in gauge. I would say that all of them, this was a sport weight yarn. Now that I'm thinking about it, this is pretty much a sport weight yarn as well. I would not say this is a DK. It's definitely a sport. And this one took me a day as well. This was super quick. And I would say this one is definitely closer to a DK because the base yarn is not quite a fingering. I would say the base yarn is a sport, and then I held it with a strand of mohair, so this is definitely a DK. And I did it on a needle size larger than pattern called for, so it was super quick. Yeah, highly recommend all 3. I will probably make all 3 again. I have a slight obsession with these. Obviously, I think that they're the cutest addition to any outfit if you're trying to add a little something. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was insightful, helpful in some type of way, and I will hopefully be posting another video by the end of the month. And thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.